Hi, everyone. Welcome to Live with Sarah and Tasha, except for it's just me today. Tasha is off enjoying her family today. And I come to you from, and I think it says it backwards on my screen. Does it say it backwards, John? Yeah? Yeah. But I am coming to you from Barcelona, Spain. Not really, but let's pretend, as one of our Walk the World Challenge destinations. How many of you are participating in our Walk the World Challenge and enjoying your walks, right? Yeah, maybe share with me in the chat what walks you've been doing. I've been enjoying, it makes it so interesting when I can go for a 5 kilometer walk, say, and just imagine the whole time that I'm somewhere else in the world, right? So it's really, really kind of inspired me to get out there and to remember what traveling the world was and potentially in the future could feel like again. Um, so again, welcome to Live with Sara and Tasha, who we are missing today, as again, she is spending time with her family. But I am the founder and the CEO at Live Well Exercise Clinic. And Tasha and I are the original clinical exercise physiologists and health coaches at Live Well. And every week we love coming together with all of you to share what we believe is important information. We hope that it's valuable for you. It's a way for us to be able to really kind of engage with each of you from across the country, and to hopefully inspire you in just small little bite-sized topics and pieces of information. How many of you tune in every week and feel like you've walked away with some type of information that was helpful that hopefully you can implement, right? And I think it's just nice to see each other's faces. So it's a reminder that if you can see yourself on your screen, that means that we can all see you. We love seeing your face, but I just want you to know that. And we do have everyone muted. That's just so that we can get a great audio recording as we do post these on YouTube. So without further ado, I always encourage you to use the chat function, type in any questions, comments, say hello to a friend on the call, whatever you choose. That is our best way to kind of communicate and to have a good conversation today. So our topic today is dealing with aches, pains, and injury. And, oftentimes, maybe even for some of us who maybe we're out there doing the Walk the World Challenge, and maybe we're walking a little bit more than we're used to, or maybe we're walking more challenging routes that we used to. But, our body always is going to deal with aches, pains, and injury. And so it's a good conversation to have because we often think about that potentially we have done something wrong in order to experience pain, in order to experience aches. And so it's kind of how to understand how we got there and then how to mitigate the situation and how to give our body the space and time it needs to recover. And that doesn't always mean sitting down and doing nothing. How many of you can kind of relate to the time where maybe you got back to an activity that you hadn't done for a while, maybe a seasonal activity like golf or skiing or something like that, and you go out for the first day and you are sore the next day, right? And you feel those muscles feeling tight. And, oftentimes the best way for us to recover and what our mind even tells us is I need to kind of get up and move my body. I should go for a nice slow walk and get my body moving, right? How many of you have experienced that feeling of muscle aches and pains and on the flip side gone for a walk and it's made you feel better, right? Just helps to keep our body moving. So aches, pains, and injuries, of course, happen to everyone, exercisers and non-exercisers alike. And though rest is often part of recovery and the healing process, we also don't want to stop exercise altogether. In order to protect the habit of exercise, we do have to come up with some creative ways to allow that injured portion of our body, those injured or sore muscles, to get some rest while continuing exercise. If we stop exercising altogether, we actually lose strength and cardiovascular fitness while we recover. And we may actually kind of fall out of that routine. Now, several weeks ago, we talked about resistance training, which helps us to build our strength. And does anyone remember, and you can just use it with a show of fingers, what percentage of our overall strength do we lose in 1 week of not doing our resistance training? 10%, exactly. Good job, John. Good memory. We lose 10% of our strength gains in just 1 week of not doing something. And think of how long it takes us to build up our strength. It took us a lot more than a week, right? And so we want to do everything that we can to protect the area that has aches and pains while continuing to exercise the rest of the body. One of the pieces of exercise equipment in our clinics that I think is just so good for people around the area of aches and pains and injury is that Recline Stepper, that new step, right? So it's that seated machine and it has the stepping pedals and the arms. And the reason why it's so effective, and it's actually an orthopedic rehab machine, but we have it in LiveWell because as we age, we're going to have aches and pains. And that machine specifically, it allows you to just use your left leg and you could be resting your right leg. You could just use your right leg and rest your left leg. You could just use your legs and forgo using your arms, or you could just use your arms and forgo using your legs. So it really allows you to pick and choose. So if we have somebody who's even come off of a knee replacement and they maybe have to slowly get that right leg back into exercise, they can slowly start to kind of lead with their left leg and their arms and overall slowly start to bring that right leg in. But the key here is that we don't lose our overall strength and our cardiovascular fitness. Now, there is something that is, a scientific principle of strength training. And it is something that we want to avoid, but I know that all of us have experienced. And it is something called delayed onset muscle soreness. And delayed onset muscle soreness is really kind of what we talked about a little bit earlier here. It's when we go out and we do an activity, maybe like skiing for the first day of the season, or maybe it's getting out on a kayak for a summer's day, and that's not a typical activity that we do. And maybe kind of towards the end of that day, we go, I'm feeling a little bit stiff. Definitely felt that. What a good workout. But it's when we wake up the next day and, all of a sudden you sit on the toilet and you realize, I don't think I can get up off the toilet because my legs are so sore, right? That would be the example of skiing. I am very into equestrian riding, and I haven't been riding for about 2 months now, but my daughter is away at camp, and so I have to ride her horse tomorrow. So I will report back to you on Saturday how I feel after I'm sure that my muscles will experience some of this delayed onset muscle soreness, or abbreviated DOMS. We call it DOMS. Okay, so DOMS is when we actually overload a muscle with a new exercise or a new sequence. We actually kind of develop little micro tears in our muscle, which need to heal. Any injury to a muscle, even these tiny micro tears, they set off some type of localized inflammation. And as a result, we experience discomfort. Now, with general strength training, we never want to reach that level. But when we do a new activity, we overload a muscle. Maybe it was a spring cleaning day in the home. Maybe it's that first day back in the garden in the spring. I think we can all probably relate to that, right? You come in at the end of the day and you're feeling fatigued, but the next day you go, oh my goodness, I can barely move. What has happened here? It is a scientific principle in exercise physiology that is this inflammation, and as a result, we get discomfort. It doesn't mean that you are necessarily injured. Your body will recover. These micro tears actually are what allow for muscle growth and development. So they're not all in all bad. Again, when we do resistance training, we are causing these minute muscle tears. Again, creating the opportunity for us to gain strength. Um, but we break the muscle down to build it up. That's simply what happens as we are building our muscle up. Now, DOMS, or delayed onset muscle soreness, typically lasts 24 to 48 hours. So 1 to 2 days after you have that overload, or it may be even after you've had, a significant progression in your exercise program. Or it could be that you've returned from holidays, maybe walking in Barcelona, Spain, which I hope we all get to do in real life one day, and you haven't been exercising in that formal way like you are in the clinic doing the resistance training, and the re-entry to that exercise can make you feel a little bit sore a day or 2 days after. And we hear this from our new members at LiveWell, and that's why our philosophy at LiveWell is to start low and to go slow. And so many people think that when we start resistance training and doing exercises, that they want to lift as much as they can. But ultimately, when we feel pain for 24 to 48 hours, psychologically, we don't really want to do that activity anymore, right? I mean, we want to kind of pull back from it, especially if it's something that we're doing several times a week, like your exercises in the clinic. And so, starting low and moving really slow is how we can avoid DOMS. But I think that DOMS is really something that we are more likely to see in our everyday life. Again, like those activities of skiing, first day of golf, gardening, and so forth. Maybe it's a long day taking care of the grandkids and they were running around and they've all grown a little bit and they all weigh a little bit more, and you were picking them up, and the next day or for the next 2 days you're going to feel a little bit more sore. And though it may seem counterintuitive, movement is the best thing to overcome DOMS. So again, this is where a light walk. Now, a light walk actually brings blood flow to the injured muscle, therefore allowing it to heal and recover faster. And you'll often notice that you will loosen up after an activity if you go for a walk. The only thing, obviously, that you would want to avoid if you're in that 1 to 2 days after kind of an overloading exercise is doing weight training or overloading that muscle again, right? So making sure that you're taking a break, making sure that you're letting your body recover. When we talk specifically about aches and pains, from time to time, we all wake up with sore necks from maybe sleeping strangely, or maybe it's a new pillow or twisting when lifting something. And we find that we've kind of created some type of ache or maybe a pinched muscle. And these little aches and pains of life, can be minimized through maintaining things like good muscle balance. So again, doing your exercises in the clinic. Of course, everyone's custom exercise program is designed in a way where, first of all, it's meeting the needs of your body, but it's also balanced for your body. And that's very, very important, right? So that's where maybe we hear someone who's a non-exerciser go and hit the golf course for the season, and they maybe don't have good muscle balance, and they find themselves having some aches and pains from playing golf, feeling like maybe, oh, golf causes me to have, a sore back, or, sore knees, or whatever it may be. But oftentimes these can be mitigated by being a regular exerciser and therefore gaining good muscle balance, practicing good posture. I'm always practicing good posture. I was sitting next to my 17-year-old daughter yesterday, and she does ballet. So she has just natural great posture. And I think I looked like the hunchback of Notre Dame next to her, because all of a sudden I realized I was lower than her, and I looked over and I quickly fixed my posture. Um, Good ergonomics throughout the day, um, they really go a long way. Uh, I will be honest that I didn't have my desk set up with the best ergonomics, though I should know better. I have a really ergonomic chair where I actually um, sit almost on my knees, and I'm sitting more upright. So I'm not actually seated in a chair. I'm a little bit more upright and forward. But the placement of my keyboard for my eyesight and how I should be typing was all a little bit off. And it didn't feel that off to me, but all of a sudden, I started to get these little aches and pains in my shoulder blade, and I thought, okay, well, sure, that was just from sleeping oddly, okay. And then it got worse and worse and worse, to the point that one day it was an incredible amount of pain. So I went to my lovely massage therapist who heals all, and he started working on my back, and he said, "Your back is incredibly messed up. There's there's roping of muscles that are just seizing up." And he said, "I'd really like to take a look at your workstation." And so he made sure that I then had a keyboard that was at the right level. I have to have a separate screen because I use a laptop. And because I go between different clinics, I sometimes work from home, I sometimes work from Barcelona, Spain. I wish, not really. And so I use a laptop, but a laptop means that I'm always looking down at my screen if I want my keyboard flat. If I choose to elevate my screen for it to be straight in front of me, like what it is now, it means that my keyboard becomes elevated, and I'm in fact kind of holding my body up in order to type. So I learned the hard way in this one. It took weeks and weeks of therapy. And my massage therapist enforced good behavior and good habits and made me clean up my workstation. And so now I have a monitor screen that I can use, and I can move screens back and forth. I had to learn. It's quite technical and took me some time, but I've learned how to do it. And now my back aches and pains have gone away. Um, Another time that I often hear about people having little aches and pains that sometimes start to creep up, right? They just slowly start to build because it's almost like a habitual posture that we have. Um, that oftentimes I hear this when someone comes into the clinic and says, "Oh, my back is just killing me. I don't know what I've done." Well, were you out gardening? Did you have to pick up a grandkid? And, maybe they were heavier than you thought. Did you lift a big box? I don't know what I've done. And oftentimes it all of a sudden comes down to a new car and just the slight positioning of the seat, the slight positioning of the angle of the back, the way that the seat works with the steering wheel, all of these things. They're things that we would sit in the seat and go, "Oh, I feel very comfortable," but it's a change for our body. And all of a sudden, we're put in a situation where our body can actually get some pain. So, doing exercises in a pain free motion is often a great way to still get your exercise in while allowing those muscle groups to rest. We know our own bodies best. Our brain tells us what our body is capable of. The concept of no pain, no gain, please forget that. It started in the 80s, it belongs in the 80s with leg warmers and aerobics. We do not believe in no pain, no gain. We believe start low and move slow. And one of the benefits of coming to live well is that, of course, your exercises have to adapt to you as you go and in the current moment, right? So in that current moment, maybe you did recently get a new car and the seat position has moved, and maybe we need to change some of your exercises in order to accommodate that pain. So if you wake up with a stiff back from gardening, or that stiff sore neck from sleeping, or you're working through an injury, let us know in the clinic. I always say, We have hundreds of exercises to choose from. If you simply just don't like an exercise, it's okay to say, I'm not enjoying this exercise. I dread it every single time that I'm coming in. Could we change it up? We have so many options. And we can also communicate with other healthcare providers that you're working with, such as maybe a massage therapist or physiotherapist or chiropractor, in order to help you to stay active while also recovering. And, it reminds me of why physiotherapists often are some of the biggest referral sources to Live Well Exercise Clinic, is that they work with somebody when there's an injury, right? We go to physiotherapy when we need to work through an injury. And what physiotherapists continually tell me is that if their patients were regular exercisers, they would probably mitigate most of these issues and be able to cope and get through them easier. And so that's where we want to support you. Any aches and pains that you have, bring them to us, and we can always work with those other allied healthcare providers that are helping you through it. But then, of course, there is acute injury. And these are maybe times when it is best to take time off of exercise altogether. So maybe it's, you've had a rear ender in your car and your body actually fully needs to rest. These are more extreme injuries, and maybe post-surgical times. Again, people who are regular exercisers, though, they recover better from acute injury moments. Um, Typically, though, your exercise routine can be changed to accommodate the injured area. With the example that I gave you earlier, with using the new step, even using that Schwinn Airdyne bike that has the big fan on it. Um, I know some people enjoy that piece of equipment and other people don't, but what I will tell you about it is that it is a great recovery piece of equipment. It's in most physiotherapy clinics. When you see professional athletes recovering, they're on those Schwinn Airdyne bikes. Why? Because, have you ever noticed there's little pedals that come out from the middle of the big fan section of the bike? There's these little rubber, uh, little almost pedals that come out, where you can rest your leg. So maybe you need to rest your right leg on one of those little pedals while you're pedaling with the other leg, right? And again, on that Schwinn Airdyne bike, you could also choose to just use your arms. Keep in mind, it's not all or nothing. When you're injured or if you have pain, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't use that muscle or you should use it all the time. You can use it intermittently in a way that feels comfortable for you, at any given time. And so um, deconditioning can happen very quickly. And I think that's important for us to remember. So any form of movement that you can maintain during aches and pains and injury is really, really important. Do your best to not derail the habit that you've worked so hard to achieve at Live Well. And maybe we can kind of change the way that we think about injuries and pain and see them more as a challenge for us to get over. And therefore, psychologically, that will help us to overcome them. I see some things in chat that I want to be able to quickly look at. And I saw really good question. With the Schwinn Airdyne bikes, because of the fan, they were a non-COVID safe piece of equipment for a long, long time. And so they're something that we have slowly been able to, depending on where you live and what health authority and in what province, that we've been able to slowly bring them back. But anything that created airflow, so rowers, Schwinns, and fans, for some time were not permitted. Again, many of our clinics have been able to reintroduce those, so they may slowly come back. So I'm just reading what other people are talking about. People are, chatting about, yes. And actually moving to Spain on August 31st. Is Paul really moving to Spain on August 31st? That is so exciting. Amazing. And Paul was also saying a heating pad can help with that morning, with a stiff back or a stiff neck. And absolutely, right? Um, so I hope that all of you, I hope that it helps you to gain a new perspective on pain and injury and how we can, really reduce the downtime that it can often cause in our life. And so, how can you live well this week? Go into your member portal and set a plan for the week. Go into that weekly practice plan and identify one, two, or three things that you can do. Keep in mind that we build healthy habits one tiny little thing at a time, not big, huge steps. The smaller the thing that we put in front of us, the more likely we are to be successful, the more likely then we build our confidence at it. That is how we build healthy habits. Schedule time into your calendar to get in that exercise session. Maybe add an extra session this week. Make sure that you get in your walks for our Walk the World Challenge and continue to share in clinic what your experiences have been. I see that Linda was sharing in the chat that she has also been to Barcelona. Beautiful. So thank you everybody for joining me today. Our beautiful Tasha will be back with me next week. If you are tuning in on our playback on YouTube and you are not a member at LiveWell, then I encourage you to visit livewellclinic.ca and we invite you to be our guest. We will roll out the red carpet for you and let you experience what all of us get to experience at LiveWell and help you live life to the fullest. If you are watching this on YouTube, we encourage you to subscribe to our channel so that you can catch all of the previous episodes of Live with Sara and Tasha and learn more, hear from members. And we thank you again for participating today. We will see you next Thursday at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And I don't totally know what the topic is because that's what Tasha always does. So we are going to leave it as a surprise mystery topic. And we will come to you from a mystery location somewhere from our Walk the World Challenge. But thank you everybody for participating today. Enjoy the day. If it's hot where you are, it's hot where I am right now. I'm not even in Spain. Stay hydrated and enjoy the day. Thank you for joining.